Hello, my name is Marco Williams from Hashbane Games, and I think this is going to be more of a show and tell tutorial than me actually doing it and then having you follow along. I'm using Rain Indie, and I've been trying to figure out for the past few days how to kind of make a chase behavior, but have the enemy stop and then attack. Now, I haven't gotten to the attack part yet, but I made a major breakthrough on getting my enemy to follow after me and then actually stop when it gets to a certain distance, so that it could attack me. Now, this could be really handy if you have a ranged enemy versus a melee enemy, because you want the ranged enemy to stop a lot further back and be able to shoot, and your enemy would be really close so that he could be within range. So so that was my objective in doing this, and the default examples that are on the Rain site don't really show you how to do that. The other thing that I was going to cover is that I have obstacle avoidance working. It's very easy to set up, and hopefully I could give you a quick show and tell on how that works too. So without further ado, let's get started. So my setup is pretty simple. I have my red cube's not really doing anything. I have a couple dummy enemies here. This is already assuming that you know how to set up an enemy AI, which is just going to create an AI. If you go to your behavior tree, which I already have it, and you add where am I? And you create a new behavior tree. That's how you get this hierarchy. And if you let's say I wanted to add an enemy. I keep saying enemy. Basically, a mind, an AI mind on this object. All you would do is come over to, I think you just say create AI, and then it creates all the tree and everything underneath this guy. So so that's how you handle that. So right now my red guy is not going to do anything. He's just going to be sitting there. But what I've done is I've already set this up, and I made some adjustments here. My sensor, or my obstacle avoidance, I made a little bit bigger so that it could avoid other things a little better, and I pretty much did that by just expanding out the obstacle avoidance radius. You can also do it in the inspector here, like I made mine 6. So there's nothing really out of the ordinary here for obstacle avoidance. All I did was increase his radius, and in my path manager I just checkbox the avoid obstacles, and that is it. That's all I had to do, and my guys avoid anything it collides with. And if you use that in conjunction with like a move action, it will go around the objects. You'll see in a minute. So basically all I have here is a root. I have a couple sequences. I have a parallel with some sequences underneath that, and I'll get into a little bit about what the parallel is and what I found out about that, and what some of these things are. So first off, this is an assign action. So to get that, I went under aspect. No, I'm sorry. I went under. Oh, I right-clicked on this and I went create actions assign, and that created this object. And all I'm doing here in my expression is I'm just setting some variables. So this kind of works like JavaScript in the sense that you don't have to strong type your variables. So I just put distance equals 0, and my max distance is going to be 2.5. Now my max distance I set at that because I want my enemy to stop when it's 2.5 away from its target. Now we have a parallel, and what a parallel seems to do is it will run multiple sequences at the same time. So I have a sync sequence here for my distance check, and I have a detect and move. Now the detect and move we're going to go into, and then I'm going to also show you a little bit about a custom action that I wrote, and I'll dig through a little bit of code. So we have detect and move, and I'm going to cover that first. I'm doing some very simple stuff that you guys have probably seen in some of the other tutorials. Basically, I right-clicked, create actions, detect, and I've set it up so that it detects my player. Now, as you guys probably already know, to detect an aspect, you add an aspect to your target object. So I did that by going add aspect, and then I gave it one of the aspects. In this particular case, I gave it a visual aspect. And then so in my aspect, in my detection, I give it a sensor. So that's my sensor on my enemy, and my aspect is player, which is what I named on my player, which was right here. And then I gave it a variable called player position. Now this variable is going to be the position of my player and where my move sequence is going to do. So a sequence will play things consecutively until they're done. So once this detects the player, it's going to move to my move sequence, and I added this by going create actions move, and it creates a move sequence, and I have a move to player, repeat never, and what I did here is I selected variable, and I put my variable name, and I said how fast do I want my enemies to move. I don't have any look at target or anything specified. I didn't have any animations because they're cubes, but this would be where you could like tell it to play the run animation and that sort of thing. One thing to note about the move speed: the move speed will not go faster than the max speed on your rain agent. So for a long time I was like, why is this guy moving so slow? Well, it was because my max speed was set to 1. Even though I put my move speed at 6, it just would never go faster than it was allowed to accelerate and move. So be sure that whatever you're setting your move speed at is within the range of your max speed. So what's next? So that's some of your basics. That will get your player to move. So how do we check the distance? Well, I set a variable up here for distance, and I set a variable for what I wanted my max distance to be. And so on my move to player, I have set distance equals 0, so that's if it's 0, because that's what it starts at, I still want my player to move. Or if my distance is greater than my max distance, then we still want to keep performing these actions. And then that will evaluate, but that distance value is not going to do anything. It's going to always be 0 unless we do this distance check. So this is where it kind of got a little confusing. Before, I had this distance below it and it didn't work, so I had to do this distance check sequence prior to my detect and move. And then I found an article that says basically that we can make this parallel stop checking and move to the next sequence in line. I'm not exactly sure. Actually, if somebody could clarify this for me so I fully understand it, like I got it working, but I don't 100% understand what it's doing. So you can email me at marco@hashbanggames.com, and maybe you can shed some clarity on it. I'm still learning this, and the wife's calling, so I will pause this. Okay, I'm back. Let's see, where was I? Okay, so basically I was saying that if you kind of understand how the parallel is working, maybe you can email me and kind of bring me a little more up to speed. Like I said, I have it working, but it's just not, my comprehension of what it's doing isn't quite there yet. But I saw in the forums that I could set my parallel succeed was normally on all, and I set this to any. Then on my distance check, I said repeat until success. And I'll show you what my detect distance custom action is doing right now. So this has an A on it. It's a custom action, and what I did to create that is I went to Actions, Custom Action. Once you do that, I gave it a class name, so mine is called Distance Check, and then you right click and you say, oh, this one's already created, so let me kind of show you on a new one. So Actions, Custom Action, class name, let's call this Poop, and because I'm going to delete it. If you right click, it says generate action script. You can do a C# JavaScript or a Boo. I chose C# because that's what I'm most familiar with. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the Poop, and so I have a class. And what this does is it creates inside of my AI folder a class called Distance Check. And if I bring that up, it will give you a bare bone set of information in here, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that information is based off of a template that is inside of right here, yeah, under script templates. So this is like the basic template that it automatically creates the file from, which is pretty fancy. So it already has all of your stuff that you need here. It has this start method, it has an execute method, and it has a stop method, which I'm not currently using. And I'm not exactly sure like when the stop comes into play, so maybe someone could shed some light on that for me also. Alright, so what I've done here is I've defined a few variables, my agent's position, my target's position, and the distance between the two. To get my agent's position, I used the agent, which is passed into my start method, avatar transform position, and that gets my agent position. And then what I want to do is set my target based on the player aspect. So this works very similar to how the detect node works. So I'm just doing it through code. So I said agent mind get object with aspect. I specified my aspect, and this uses an out. And in C# what that does is it takes the result, and instead of just doing like, you know, mTarget equals, instead of doing that, it actually populates the variable right in line here. So I said mTarget, and so this actually gets my player as a game object and populates it into my variable. So I just do a double check here. If my target is not equal null, then we want to go ahead and get a distance comparison, and that's what that does here. But this only does it one time, right? Right when this node actually starts, it's going to perform this. The magic happens in the execute, and the execute will repeat itself if you return this action result running, and it will basically do a loop and continue. So you can use this for all sorts of things. You can actually manually move your objects from within your execute for some actions, or you can do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do in the behavior tree. I can definitely see a lot of functionality that you can customize by using this. So I'm pretty much doing the same thing up here because we always want to keep track of the agent's position. Now the agent is my enemy, my little blue square. Then I want to get the distance between you and the target. Same thing that I was doing up here. And then what I'm going to do is make this set context item call. And what this does is it allows me to set the variable that I declared inside of my assign and make that variable available for condition checks. So it's basically updating this variable, and which is really good because now in my move to player I can check that if the distance is greater than my max distance. The next step is for me, I actually don't think I need to do this, but I want to do it because if my distance is greater than 1, I would want this to return success. I mean, if it's less than 1, which means that somehow you didn't check the distance up here and evaluate it. But I really actually think that this could go away. I haven't tested it yet. You could just literally set action result dot running, and this would always run continuously doing the distance check. But this was my original code, and I didn't remove it, and I may test that out and see how it affects everything. But I kind of think that we don't need this here. But basically what this is doing is saying that if we haven't reached the player yet, then keep running this and keep doing the distance check. Then what we have is this comparison here to tell if this doesn't what did it do? Oh, if this doesn't evaluate to true, if this returns false, then this action is not going to happen, which means that our player will stop, or our enemy will stop. So let's take a look and see how it all works. You'll see that they're chasing after me, and if I stop, they stopped. At which point you could tell your behavior tree to start a whole nother sequence, maybe an attacking sequence which does damage and whatnot. I was looking at this behavior tree from the behavior trees example, and they got like this whole system set up pretty slick. So you can basically make this do a whole bunch more things. And the cool thing is that now if I start running again, they keep following me. And if I hide behind this thing, you'll see they're using obstacle avoidance, and they're not running through each other either. They're running next to each other, but they're definitely not overlapping. Whoa, maybe they are overlapping a little bit. I could probably solve that by increasing their colliders so that they don't actually bleed into each other so much. But they are avoiding each other, so you can see they went next to each other there. If I stop and start this again, you'll see that if you can manage to get one behind the other there, and then I stop, they'll go around each other, which is pretty snazzy. And that's all I have to show you. As I learn some of these things, I'm going to try to make some more videos, and hopefully you can learn along with me. And if you have found anything new that you'd love to share with me, I'm always open for doing things differently and learning new things. So once again, my name is Marco Williams from Hashbang Games, and thanks for watching.